I now call the March 15th, 2016 regular council meeting to order. Would council members please denote your presence by pressing your yes switch?
All members are present.
Okay, thank you. Council meetings are also televised and can be viewed on cable channel 192. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the minutes of the March 1st, 2016 regular council meeting as published in the Casper Star-Tribune on March 11th.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Miller, seconded by Councilman Hopkins. Any corrections? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
All members voting aye. Motion passes.
The Chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action. Wait a sec. I gotta make sure I don't need to abstain from something. Okay. The Chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the March 1st, 2016 bills and claims as audited by City Manager McDonald.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Powell, seconded by Councilman Johnson. Any abstentions? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
All members voting aye. Motion passes.
The Council will now address the main business portion of the meeting. Council carries out business by three types of action: by ordinance, resolution, and minute action. Ordinances require 3 readings and votes, whereas other items are passed by 1. Ordinances create or modify law, whereas resolutions and minute actions provide for council to carry out regular business. These various actions have different publication and public hearing requirements. Items may be considered by consent or not consent. Consent items are typically routine and will not be discussed by council. Items not listed as consent will be discussed by council, and there is a process for the public as well as council to remove a title from consent for that discussion. Council will now hold previous scheduled public hearings for the purpose of obtaining public input. Public hearings are held for items such as annexations, liquor licenses, passage of the budget, and zone changes. The city attorney will present applicable exhibits for the issue, and the city manager will give council a report. Members of the audience will then be asked to speak either in favor or against the issue, and then the council will discuss the issue and act upon it if necessary. I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of the amendment to the 2015-2016 CDBG Annual Action Plan and an update to the Citizen Participation Plan. City Attorney Lubin, do you have any exhibits?
I do, Your Honor. I have 2 exhibits. Exhibit number 1 being correspondence from Liz Becker to V.H. McDonald, pardon me, dated March 15th, 2016. And exhibit number 2, that being the affidavit of publication as published in the Casper Star-Tribune, dated March 4th, 2016.
Thank you. City Manager McDonald, do you have a report?
Yes, I do, Your Honor. The City of Casper receives community development block grant funding from the federal Housing and Urban Development Department. That plan is carried out through a multi-year comprehensive plan, and then annually action plans are adopted to further carry out the details of that program. There's a proposal for council to consider amending the fiscal year 15-16 annual action plan by approving expenditure of funds for some work at the LifeStep campus for some heating and air conditioning system repairs, and then some changes to the citizen participation plan. Joy Clark, the community development technician that principally takes care of this program, is here to answer any questions or add any detailed comments, as well as Liz Becker, the community development director / assistant city manager.
Thank you.
Oh, and the amount of the amendment for the LifeSteps HVAC work is $379,365,000 additional expenditure.
Okay. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of the annual action plan or the citizen participation plan to please approach the lectern.
Your Honor, members of council, Liz Becker and Joy Clark, 200 North David. We wanted to reiterate some of the major points that we had shared with you last week at the work session, so our citizens at home can, and here in the audience, can kind of understand what the changes are to these two plans. The first, as Mr. McDonald said, was a change to our 2015-2016 annual action plan. We have been advised by HUD that we have some unexpended funds from prior years, and the way that we handle that is to request through resolution a reallocation of those funds, and that is in the amount of $379,000. Ms. Clark has been working diligently on a project that she has brought forward to you for a heating replacement system with the LifeSteps campus, which will work perfectly for that campus improvement. And so that is one of the two plan changes that we wanted to bring forward this evening. The other is the changes to the citizen participation plan. As I'd indicated last week, that the changes to the citizen participation plan are really three different components. One is lengthening the amount of public notification prior to a public hearing from 10 days to 15 days. The second is making the plan available more easily or readily available to our disabled citizens. And the third is taking into account the ability to have it available in other languages, most specifically the Spanish. So those were really the three changes that HUD is asking all of the participating municipalities to be aware of, is making sure that our citizens can read and be aware of the use of our CDBG funds. Most recently, Joy, as our city attorney Lubin reported, did follow publication requirements. We had it in the newspaper, but she also had distributed these changes to our 5 participating agencies, those being CAP, that being the Housing Authority, WCDA, the library, and also available in our office. And that was for a 15-day public comment period so that we are compliant. And she picked those comments up today. This evening, following the public hearing, if there are comments, Joy will incorporate any comments received this evening into the final plan recommendation back to HUD, and then we will conclude this period with the amendment, and again bring forward here this next month the annual action plan for 16-17. But Joy would be happy to answer any questions you have.
I have a quick question. 5 agencies, I got CAP, CHA, WCDA. Who are the other 2?
I'm the library, and I skipped one, Your Honor. That would be HUD, the HUD office over at the post office, and then also our office upstairs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, do we have any questions or comments to address to Joy or Liz? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Did we receive any comments from any of the other locations?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a quick one. Who's your Spanish translator?
Actually, my daughter is our on-call Spanish translator. We don't have an appointed translator.
Well, I knew that, and I just wanted you to be able to say that for the public record. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else to speak in favor of the annual action plan or the citizen participation plan? Please approach the lectern. Okay. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the annual action plan or the citizen participation plan to please approach the lectern. Anyone to speak in opposition? Okay. There being no one else to speak for or against, I now declare the public hearing closed. Chair would entertain a motion to, by resolution, authorize the amendment of the 2015-2016 CDBG Annual Action Plan and an update to the Citizen Participation Plan.
So moved. Second.
Okay, I have Councilman Hopkins moved and seconded by Councilman Hiley. Discussion. So we're all up on this, and we realize that in order to spend federal funding, you gotta spend it or you lose it, which is a rather wasteful model for government, if you ask me, but that's the way it works. And in the past, we had, I'm reviewing from the work session. In the past, we had saved that funding from the federal government so that we could enact big projects. And that's a problem if it's a use it or lose it funding model. So it's good that we have a big project to spend $379,000, and spending that money will actually renew the possibility that we will continue that funding, and that's really important. And there is a long-term possibility that we can actually deal with our zombie tree issue with some of that funding, but that's not for sure. We're looking at it. Councilman.
If I may, Your Honor, based on the work session last week, it's very clear that this is a system that has long outlived its lifespan. And so while it may appear to be spending money that just needs to be spent, it is being spent on a system that is long overdue for replacement. And the campus will be much better off for it.
Absolutely. Any other comments, questions? How
Mr.
about?
Mayor?
Yeah.
Thank you. I would like to thank Councilman Powell for bringing that point up, that this is a very much needed repair. And I think it's been put on the list and put on the list for how many years? There we go. It's been patched in many years. And the other thing, though, that I would like to make note of is as we receive federal money, federal strings wind up being attached, which to a point is increasing our cost of administration. So I think that needs to be noted in there as well.
Any more comments? How about amendments? Do we need any amendments? Okay, please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passes.
Consideration of the next items will be by ordinance. Please read the consent ordinances on second reading by title only.
An ordinance approving the annexation, plat, and zoning, creating La Hacienda addition to the city of Casper, and also approving La Hacienda addition subdivision agreement. An ordinance approving a final plat and a subdivision agreement for the development of the Heritage Hills Addition Number 4 subdivision in the city of Casper, Wyoming. An ordinance approving the annexation, plat, and zoning, creating Heritage Hills Addition Number 5 to the city of Casper, and also approving the Heritage Hills Addition Number 5 subdivision agreement. An ordinance amending certain sections of Chapter 1512 of the Casper Municipal Code, Board of Examiners and Appeals, and Contractor Licensing.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve on second reading the consent ordinances just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Kathy and seconded by Councilman Powell. Any abstentions or nay votes? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passes.
The council will now consider consent resolutions. Please read the consent resolutions by title only.
Item 7A1, a resolution authorizing a contract for professional services with Northline GIS LLC. Item 7A2, a resolution authorizing a repayment agreement for transit buses. Item 7A3, a resolution approving the vacation and replat of Lot 2A, 213, and Tract A, Prairie Park Estates Number 3, to create Prairie Park Estates Number 5, and the associated subdivision agreement. Item 7A4, a resolution renaming Prairie Schooner Road, Creek Court, Ute Court, and Erie Court, located in Cottonwood Addition, and authorizing and directing the resolution to be recorded in the office of the Natrona County Clerk. Item 7A5, a resolution authorizing a Transportation Alternatives Program agreement with the Wyoming Department of Transportation for the Robertson Road Pathway Continuation Project. Item 7A6, a resolution authorizing a license agreement with Midwest Urban Development, LLC, to install a concrete retaining wall within South Ash Street right-of-way. Item 7A7, a resolution authorizing a contract for professional services with WLC Engineering for the Washington Park Bleachers Project. Item 7A8, a resolution authorizing a contingency and development agreement with Nalco Fabtech LLC, Casper Area Economic Development Alliance, Inc., the Economic Development Joint Powers Board, and the City of Casper for a new sanitary sewer main as part of the 33-mile sanitary sewer project. Item 7A9, a resolution authorizing change order number 3 with Hazelden Wyoming Constructors, LLC, for a price increase as part of the Recreation Center Facility Upgrades Project. Item 7A10, a resolution authorizing a contract for professional services with WWC Engineering for professional services for the K Street Improvements Project.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt the consent resolutions just read.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Pacheco, seconded by Councilman Johnson. Any abstentions or nay votes? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passes.
All right, good. Okay, the council will now consider minute action items. These are routine business items that... Did we miss something?
Nope.
Okay.
Just mumbling to myself.
Okay. Well, it could be important. You never want to assume it's not.
Usually not.
Okay. All right. The council will now consider minute action items. These are routine business items that do not require a resolution. Please read the consent minute action titles.
Item 8A1, approving a one-year extension for retail liquor license number 36, Urban Market Wines, LLC, doing business as Urban Bottle Wine and Spirits, located at 319 West Midwest. Item 8A2, acknowledging the receipt of the financial interest disclosures completed by City Council and staff.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent minute action agenda items just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Hopkins, seconded by Councilman Powell. Any abstentions or nay votes? Please cast your vote. please record the vote?
With all members voting aye, motion passes.
Now's the time that we invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak with the council to come forward. We ask that you please state your name and address. Welcome, Mr. Reed.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, member of the councils. My name is Michael Reed. I reside at 1615 Luker Drive, 82609. You were kind enough a couple work sessions ago to give Mr. Sweeney and I an opportunity to talk with you about the Safe Ride program. And at that time, we told you how we funded it and those kind of things. And I think we also told you we were going to be the beneficiary of a Thankful Thursday program out at the Beacon Club. We were last Thursday night, and I just wanted to come and tell you that through the generosity of the community, the liquor dealers, a number of other businesses, and of course the cooperation of Sergeant Hatcher and Officer Wells, we were able to raise $12,352 last Thursday night. That will fund the program for a year.
Wow.
Or more, a little bit more. We do have some money in the bank, of course, so this is just to help keep the program going, and we hope to do this a couple more times, and maybe that'll make it sustainable on its own for some time. So just wanted to let you know that.
Congratulations on that success.
Good job.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments for Mr. Reed?
We definitely do appreciate everything that the liquor dealers and that program accomplish here, and we do appreciate you folks' time and effort, because here again, this is another one of those unpaid deals, and normally no good deed goes unpunished, but I would like to give you a big thank you.
Well, it was a great night, and I know that I said at the last meeting that the Beacon Club takes advantage of a number of those rides and didn't donate any money. Well, I will tell you, Ms. Ryan changed that on Thursday night. She donated quite a bit, so we appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to note the paradox. One of our jobs is to look for the paradox that's in practically everything. And the paradox here is you have responsible drinking that's contributing to more responsible drinking. That's good. Welcome, Mr. Sweeney.
Evening, Pat Sweeney, 951 North Kimball. I would just like to reiterate and thank, Sergeant Hatcher worked his tail off and putting things together and keeping us liquor dealers kind of like herding cats to get more donations, and he was right out there working at putting things together and packaging. So I can't say enough kudos to the police department and in particular to Sergeant Hatcher. Secondly, I noticed that Hogadon has been put out to bid for the new lodge. That's exciting news. I just hope bids come in on our target estimate. And I also hope that we will definitely keep in mind the economic times. The money's already been allocated from number 14 on the excess, and that we go above and beyond for our local contractors in getting this awarded. I also hope our local contractors will go above and beyond during these economic times to hopefully make that project come in on budget, being they're local, don't have to travel, those type of things. And I can't thank you enough for, trying to do the best job possible on awarding contracts to our local contractors. It just gets the money rolling, and it's such a great snowball effect. Lastly, on the urban bottle wine and spirits, I appreciate, you can see they're working. Frankly, I think you sold them a bill of goods. That building needed a tremendous amount of work, as you know. They're sophisticated buyers and owners, so I think they should have asked you for more, frankly. But that's beyond this point in time. I guess they went into the project with eyes wide open. However, one of the stipulations I believe that council placed on them when they did this deal was parking. Now, with the advent of planes, with some of the rumblings on what might happen on the Goodstein properties, it's limiting them where they could find parking close by and be able to acquire it at a reasonable rate in the old Yellowstone district. So at some point in time, if they so choose, I would just certainly suggest it's going to be kitty corner now to the Plains parking lot area that will hopefully become part of it parking, part of it something else down the line for future use. And I would just suggest, if they so choose, and their council, if they brought that forward to council, that you might think about the parking situation down there and what they've already contributed on bringing that building back. So anyway, those are my three things. And again, we definitely appreciate all of John Hatcher's work on behalf of Safe Rides and the citizens of this community, because those kind of community policing efforts, I think, are one of the keys to the future in a downturn economy. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Any questions or comments to address to Pat Sweeney? Thanks. Anyone else to address council? Please approach the lectern. Welcome, Ms. Sides.
Good evening. Lynette Boatwright.
Boatwright.
Yeah.
Sorry.
1114 South Durbin Street. I just wanted to thank you this evening for granting us an extension to the liquor license. Yeah, as you see, the guys are down there working crazily, getting Rocca's ready to open very soon. We're looking at the end of April, early May for that. And as we started looking at the schedule, we realized it was going to be really tight to try to get Urban Bottle open at about the same time. So it certainly won't be a year. We're hoping even just 30 days. So we really appreciate it and want you all to know that you're all invited to the open house for both locations. So make sure you get those. Thank you very much.
Any questions or comments to address to Ms. Boatwright?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, in our package this week, we received a letter with the information from you, and I appreciated the effort that you guys went through to communicate to us the extra need for the time. That made the vote very easy for me.
Oh, great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
This is for you, City Manager McDonald. With the parking situation, is there a way that we can help accommodate that?
Your Honor, we can certainly look at that and consider that.
Just floating ideas out here. Is there any city property that's just dedicated, well, besides the obvious parking structure, that's city property that's just a big lot that's dedicated to public parking?
There currently is one, but we will be losing that with the construction of the state building. believe there's one that's just a flat lot dedicated to parking that will continue with the construction of the plaza, the construction of the state office building. But that's one of the possibilities of the other property.
Because I'm thinking that would be the simple solution, is just have a parking area that's, you know, ostensibly public parking, but it could also benefit local businesses.
Certainly take a look at it.
Liz? Yeah.
Yeah, we have a number of businesses downtown that have parking agreements, and working through our planning department, those agreements work pretty well. They're typically coordinated, and I think our experience has been pretty good with shared parking agreements. And we have had some on those two lots we're talking about anyway. So. But it happens.
And
it works.
Do those agreements cost the local businesses any money?
I can't tell you about every contract, but
Right.
that's up to how they agree. That's the agreement they have to make.
Right. Okay. Liz, you were almost going to get up. Did you have a comment? Question?
Your Honor, Mr. McDonald covered it.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. Anyone else to address council? Please approach the lectern. Welcome, Mr. Giles.
Woody Giles, 290 East Magnolia in the Paradise Valley area. I'd just like to, as I understand, the economy is kind of tanking a little bit and may stay tanked for a while, and, you know, funding is a little lax. And I just think that maybe, you know, having our funding based on fluid things like coal and gas might be, there might be some options available. And I'd like to again suggest that you consider at a work session having an expert come out of Philadelphia, Josh Vincent. He works for the Center for the Study of Economics. You can vet it if you care to. And he will come up here for a $3,000 fee, a plane ticket, and a motel room, and tell you possibilities based on empirical evidence used in other communities. And I don't think that's a whole lot of money based on what some things you've spent money on. So, but if money's real tight, I might even throw in the motel room and pay for it myself as a little incentive. So, and I think if you discuss it, there might be enough support to, you know, at least discuss it. That's all I'm asking. And, you know, and it show you impossibilities that would, you know, help businesses, attract business, and maybe big business. I mean, I'm just making this up, but like an assembly plant for a car, or, you know, something big time, because the possibilities of those kinds of companies saving a ton of money by coming here, because having, you know, burger barns and knick-knack shops that are popping up here and there is really not driving our economy. And if coal goes down, then those businesses dry up too. So we need to, I think manufacturing might be a good thing. And you can get them here with a financial incentive that actually doesn't cost you anything. So I you know, 4 times it was mentioned that you would discuss it at a work session, and it hasn't happened yet. So I'm trying for the 5th time that maybe you can take out 5 minutes and discuss whether you have $3,000 in a plane ticket to get an expert up here and tell you some possibilities how to divert the economy to more stable sources.
Okay, council. Do we discuss this in a work session?
I believe, Mr. Mayor, that has previously been vetted through city staff, and that it was deemed not to necessarily be a viable option.
If I may speak, I got a letter from Mr. Patterson, who said he thought it was a great idea. I can bring the letter if you like to a work session, but he seemed to think it was a good idea. But it's just the idea of having somebody come and explain things to you, and then you're free to say yay, nay, might work, might not, but it's an educational thing. Would you like to be educated? Based on empirical evidence of what other cities have done and the results of what they did. So,
Again, I think I would like to hear from city staff what was found out when the calls were made to the cities that were referenced, that when it was checked out, because as I recall, it was determined that some of the places that had instituted those policies were now rescinding those policies because they had not worked. And so that was where it was left, at an informal discussion at an around the table at one of the work sessions.
Well, as I recall from that discussion, and I'm referring now to a conversation with John Patterson, the model in the Pennsylvania town that started to adopt it, it wasn't necessarily a fair test because it was just the town. They didn't have concert with the school district or the county, so not necessarily an indictment against this plan. And I would like to point out that we don't even really understand what we're rejecting yet, if we're rejecting it at this point. So I'm still inclined to revisit this during a work session.
I could meet with Liz Becker and have her explain a few things to her, and you seem to like what she has to say from time to time. So, and now this isn't everybody 100% likes this particular plan, because a few people don't benefit. I'll say 10%, and 90% do. But unfortunately, the 10% is what I call them boss hogs and 1%ers, and
I like the term fat cats.
Well, that works. But so if you look at the empirical evidence, I mean,
Okay. Well, I'm still inclined.
Mr. Mayor, I would oppose bringing this up another work session until we find some more things out. What we did find out is that from this approach, the laws have to change. And we have a meeting here next week with all of our legislators from Maternal County. And those are the guys that we need to talk to change the laws that change taxes. And I would suggest that if we want to bring it up, we bring it up and discuss it with them. Because if they don't take something to the legislature during a budget session, it's not going to happen. There's just nothing we can do until the laws of the state of Wyoming are changed. I realize that there are some valuations from the state, from our county tax rolls that do not look right. They look off-center, if you will. But we are under state law to make any changes to that. And as a group, City Council has no authority to do so. Therefore, wasting time at another work session to talk about something we can't do anything about is literally a waste of time.
Unless you know what to discuss.
I think what Mr. Giles is referring to is not so much that the evaluations be examined, but that we look at a different method for valuing property that focuses on ground versus improvements.
Which has to be set in state law.
And that it would require a special district to be created, which you're right, would require state law. But
Okay, Woody, answer that criticism that we don't have the jurisdiction / purview / authority to make the changes that you're discussing.
In my judgment, unless the expert comes up here and gives you, I call them facts, you have no idea what to discuss with a state legislature, unless you know what the proposal is, how can you explain it to somebody else? So all I'm saying, for $3,000, he'll come up here and give you numbers based on Casper, hard numbers that relate to us, not what happened in Japan or Mississippi or any. I bought the entire assessment of Natrona County from the assessor, not without some struggles, I might add, and based on those assessments, he can crunch some numbers and then say, here. And until you have that data, I don't see how you can discuss it with anybody. I mean, you're dealing with right now innuendo and myth, maybe, or so. And I'm not here to so I'm going to benefit, because the fact of the matter is, financially, it might hurt me a little bit, but it would enhance the stature of Casper, and I live in Casper, and I have kids in Casper, and so do you, So I care about Casper. I care about its future, and I think this is based on what I've seen, the evidence of what other places have done. I think it's a good deal. And it doesn't cost a dime. That's the part I like the most. I mean, you paid $80,000 for Wild City, and I just don't see it doing a whole lot for me, And here's $3,000 I think can do a lot more, attract business, because it'll be beneficial to companies to come here. I mean, you don't go to ask companies, please come here so we can tax the tar out of you. I mean, that doesn't going to work. But if you say, come here and your business costs will go down 20% or 40%, they'll say, maybe I'll give it some thought. And we, in cities and counties, always give abatements. We'll give you a free building, and we won't raise your taxes. We want no taxes for 10 years, and we'll do this, and we'll pay for this, and we'll give you this and that, and And it turns out to be really expensive for, a dozen jobs. And I'm saying you can easily create 1,000 jobs, good-paying jobs. It won't cost you a dime. I mean, what's the problem?
Charlie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the Vice Mayor points out, I think what stalled us out was the absence of the testimonials that we really wanted to hear. And so, again, you're referencing places plural, and before we would go down that road, I would like to verify that, in fact, some people have made these fairly radical changes to valuations and experienced. You mentioned empirical evidence.
Yes.
Must be publicly available. Yes. And I don't think we have to have someone come from Pennsylvania to present that evidence to us. It must be something we can look at ourselves and maybe call some people who have gone down this road and had a good experience. I'd feel more comfortable talking about it after we did that rather than before.
Okay. Center for the Study of Economics. You write it down. It's online. Go, I can bring you a whole stack of studies, and the data, if you're inclined to read it, but so far nobody's really looked forward to actually reading them. But I have a lot of data at home, and but I'm a nobody, so nobody pays attention to me. So I figured if an expert came up here dealing with Connecticut and some other places and having results and having their government saying, wow, I think there's something to this, and they're starting to make progress. Hear from the people who are actually doing something, an expert in the field, not me. And I'm talking $3,000. And
For follow-up, for myself, I'd be much more interested in hearing from Mr. McDonald's counterpart in another municipality.
Okay, great, sure.
Before we would go any further.
So you're asking perhaps for me to supply you the names of the cities and that sort of thing, or?
Well, I know you did that once before, but that's what got stalled out on us. And so there was some interest, because I think it is, I've read the book that you provided us, and it's an interesting concept, and, I mean, I'm not an economist, but I can see the potential value if you were to, test it out, but I don't want to be the first one to test it out.
Okay.
Right.
But I just, I'm just trying to prod you along. I mean, what's it going to take? I mean, you want to see some data? You want some city addresses? I mean, whatever. Tell me what you want. I'll give it to you.
Okay.
We've already received that, haven't we?
Not completely. All right. I'm looking at a council that is somewhat disinclined, and I think that where we leave this now is that we need to do a little more research. I personally will check out the website, Center for the Study of Economics. I will finish reading Poverty and Progress, Progress and Poverty.
Right? You might make a call and talk to Mr. Vincent, who was the person I suggest that you invite up here.
Give me his whole name.
Joshua Vincent. And I've never met the man. I have communicated him on the phone a time or two and a few emails. But there are some organizations that are involved in this sort of thing, and I know a lot of people in the organizations, and I know the results of various people's efforts, and this is my contribution to the effort, is talking to you people.
Okay. Understood. Well, I think we're leaving it as at more research will be done, and we'll see if we can't generate some more enthusiasm on council.
You have my phone number.
I do.
Glad to answer any questions and give you some data, whatever.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome again, Mr. Sweeney.
Just a thought. Pat Sweeney, 951 North Kimball. I know nothing about what he's talking about, except it seems to me when he said manufacturing and diversification of our economy, especially right now, where's CADA? And why, if this is something we could explore, why does it have to fall to this council?
Good point.
Isn't that what CADA is for? Shouldn't they be exploring these options? $3,000 is a drop in the bucket for their budget, which flows through now the franchise fee.
Yeah.
So maybe you guys could put some pressure on them to do some work rather than city staff be directed all the time to do some of this stuff. Just a thought.
Are you kidding? You get the gold star for the best idea tonight.
No, Woody gets the best idea.
Well, okay. Woody gets the gold star, but we're going to tear off one of the little arms and put it on you.
Thank you. Just a thought.
That's a really good question, and you're right. This is under CADA's purview, and maybe we should approach them about that.
I might also point out that the National League of Cities is probably a really good resource for this.
Right.
If they haven't looked at it, it probably hasn't been looked at. This is a group of several thousand cities.
Okay.
I don't know how I hit that button.
All right. Anyone else to address council, please approach the lectern. Anyone else? Okay. Well, now is the time that we hear from council on what's going on. We'll start with you, Councilman Powell.
Wow, radical change here. I appreciate Pat bringing up the Hogadon Lodge project. I anticipate, again, as we move forward with that project, that there will be some criticism directed at council for spending a considerable sum on building a lodge as we look at declining revenues, and we're not filling positions, and we're coming up with various scenarios to try to balance the budget as we and using reserves. I think it's important to point out that the money that we're spending on these projects is money that we did collect during times that were much more favorable, and that this may in fact be the ideal time for us to move forward with these projects as costs go down, using money that was collected and put away for those specific purposes, and that again is being expended in line with the expectations of the citizenry that voted for the 1 cent 14. I also want to point out that there is a group called Friends of Hogadon that is working on a fundraising effort to, as the saying goes, put some skin in the game. And I think it sets a good precedent for user groups that are passionate about their facilities, that they can do their own fundraising efforts to fund some enhancements to the facility so that it isn't all on the backs of the city to carry out these projects. And anyone who is interested in contributing to that can get a hold of the Friends of Hogadon through the city manager's office. And I encourage people to do that. Particularly if you use Hogadon and you want to see the lodge built, if they're able to be, if they're successful with their fundraising efforts, they will be able to do some of the things that are sort of add-ons that won't be part of the basic lodge that will enhance the facility for the users. So, but again, I think it sets a nice precedent for the user groups to take on some of the responsibility for upgrading these facilities. And I, of course, remain steadfast that this is the right thing for us to do to move forward with this project. I think that's all I have. Very exciting to see the David Street Station moving forward. For the benefit of those watching and those in attendance, the state employees that were housed at the building at the corner of David Street and Yellowstone will be moving later this week into the building across the street from us here, and that will vacate that building. The building that the DDA has been using for their office space is soon to be vacated, and we're moving very close to a date where some of these buildings will start coming down, and then I think people will start to believe that this plaza is really going to happen, because it is. And it's a pretty exciting thing to see it move forward.
Councilman Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had a amicable reuse joint powers board meeting last week, and we didn't have any real significant developments. We did review the preliminary budget for 3 Crowns and took a look at that. We think we've got some really good management in place with 3 Crowns now. So we've got a good golf course, we've got a good crew to run it, so that's going to work pretty good. The other thing I want to bring up tonight, we have on the sheet that we hand out every week that tells what's going to happen in council meeting, down on the lower right-hand side, we have kind of a council scoreboard that we asked staff to put together quite a while ago. We have 3 major goals that council has set for themselves: to do things in the downtown for infrastructure, which serves the whole city, and for recreation. And, you know, since May of last year, we've accomplished some 180 projects that vary from relatively small projects to large projects. 18 of those were in the downtown area. 106 of those projects have been infrastructure projects. and 46 of them have included things involving recreation. So while I can't give you the entire list tonight, we ask staff to update this every council meeting, and we see consistent progress. And a great deal of those projects are done with 1-cent monies. So I just want to encourage people that this council is watching what we do with our 1-cent money, and we have a list of projects we want done, and we continue to review those. But that's available on the front page when you sit down in here. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Normal load of meetings, regularly scheduled things. I believe a few of us are headed to the Parkway tomorrow to see a tour of what they're doing. So I think we're excited to see how those advancements are going, and hopefully we'll have a good report to come back. I do appreciate Mr. Giles and Mr. Sweeney coming forward and presenting this information, and having the CADA connection click. As council's liaison to CADA, I do think this is an important issue, and I will be opening a chain of communication with that group, and maybe using some of the information you have provided, Mr. Giles, to them just as some recommendations on just some options of what we can do, and because economic development is what that group exists for. So maybe we could expand on the role of what they can do moving forward on that. And just to mimic what everyone else is saying about the projects with the David Street Station and Hogadon, I am anxiously waiting for those bids to come in. I'm hoping we're not going to see anything too surprising, and I do believe we'll have the support from the community coming through and putting those projects together. And just knowing both of those projects, I think there's a lot of support, and we will be seeing good things happen. Despite the economic times, I think people will be excited to see these developments coming to our city. And actually being able to see it, that's going to be a huge milestone and something I'm looking forward to. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Schlager.
Nothing, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Pacheco.
Thank you. Just a couple thoughts that I do want to thank Woody for coming up here and talking and being able to do that. I do agree that it better fits with CADA and that plan as well. But what I want to address is the idea that we have passionate citizens in Casper that come up and being able to talk about what he does and what he wants to do. And I know some looking and seeing some of the eyes rolling and seeing that this is a crazy idea, and why are we wasting our time with this and that. And one of the great things that I learned from one of my elementary school teachers, that it's okay to color outside the lines, and that's all right. And I think sometimes when we start thinking outside the box to do things, and when we actually start thinking and continue to think inside the box, what that does to us is it creates a stagnation. And I think one of the things that when we put ourselves in a box like that, we cannot do great things. And I'm not saying that the city council is the place for Woody's idea, because it's not. But what we are is we are leaders. And so people come to talk to us because they believe in us. I got on this council not to sit here and say, well, it's going to be a waste of our time to talk about your ideas, Woody. I got on this council to listen and to say, you know what, maybe your idea is a little crazy, maybe it's a little off, but you know what, thank you for coming here and doing that. And the day that we stop thinking outside the box and we start boxing ourselves in is when government fails. And I think that's one of the greatest tragedies that we can see. And so it's okay for us to color outside the lines. And I think it's something that it's a very important thing for all of us to learn. And that this government body right here can be a great source of change. And we can never, never forget that we have to be a great source of change. And so thank you, Woody, for being here with your passion and with what you believe in, because that stirs the passion within me for the reason why I'm on this council. And we can never forget that.
Thank you. Councilman Hiley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was pondering, the discussion of economic downturn and that we have, and we all know that revenues from the resource sector are down naturally, but we also hear housing prices in Casper are holding steady, and then we balance that against overall sales tax is down considerably, our revenues for sales tax. But I take heart that sales tax revenues from the retail sector are best characterized as steady and strong. So my ponderings have taken me to why. We have contradictions of housing and retail sector that are strong, and it takes me to thinking that today we have many more businesses and a better quality of life in Casper with recreational activities than we did 20 years ago when I moved here. I think in the past, when jobs weren't immediately available in Casper, people left, and now people will consider Casper as a good place to live and stay and hope to make a living. I see that more and more. Casper's efforts to improve the quality of life through the diversity of its economic base are being rewarded. That's why housing is staying strong, and that's why retail sales tax revenues are staying strong. We have Hogadown, we have Three Crowns investments in the municipal golf course, Old Yellowstone District. I really enjoyed the art walks last summer, and now we have David Street Station coming. I think those are contributors to quality of life that people look to in Casper, and it's a reason why we stay. It's just my ponderings right now.
Thank you, Councilman Hiley. Councilman Johnson.
I had a meeting with, kind of a special meeting with some of the members of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. They discussed some long-term and short-term goals for what they want to see happen. And then they were also in talks with the Chamber of Commerce about what to do with the Visitor Center. So that decision should be coming here at the end of the month. But that's all I had.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Cathy.
Well, I have one quick question for Mr. VH. Isn't there a special deal coming up on Monday about 1 o'clock out in Paradise Valley? Fire Station 6.
Oh, Fire Station 6 groundbreaking?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. I wanted to make sure that everybody, yeah. So as far as some of the goals and things are concerned and going on, yes, there's going to be at 1 o'clock on Monday afternoon, there will be a groundbreaking ceremony for new Fire Station 6. So that goes along with the infrastructure and continuing to make progress towards the citizens of Casper. I think it was alluded to a little bit earlier. We as a council have caught a lot of flack for the recent land purchase in the old Yellowstone district. Most of that money came from a land fund for the old Yellowstone district, and we have wound up taking an old warehouse that a lot of people thought should have been torn down. It's been turned into an art center, going to be a pizzeria and a liquor store. Thank you again for that. But that was all a part of this land fund, and everybody said, what are you spending that money for in the old Yellowstone district? These are the types of forethoughts that people on council have thought about before we were here. Some of us maybe were here, you folks were here, when some of these things were done. But these are the types of things that are trying to be done and trying to help out the citizens and the growth of the city. So I hope that people will look long-term at some of these things that we have done along those lines. Beyond that, Joint Powers Water Board meeting today. Progress is being made on the new water tank that will be going in out close to the airport. So that will help out for the development out in that area as well and provide the long-needed fire suppression needs for the airport. So things are moving along well there. And I'll let it go at that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
And city staff.
Okay, first off, Councilman Powell, this is the direction that you pass the peace pipe if you're in a lodge. Just thought I'd note that.
Just took me by surprise, that's all.
Just didn't have comments ready, right?
Okay. To Councilman Pacheco's point, yes, got to keep an open mind. We've got to think outside the box. It's only innovative thinking and surprise solutions that are going to truly improve our conditions. To Councilman Hiley's point, I heard on NPR that comparing the downturn from the 80s to now, we are significantly more economically diverse and not nearly as dependent on mineral tax money. So that's true, and it's good because we've actually been working at that. To Vice Mayor Kathy's point, yeah, that fruit warehouse was laying fallow downtown for decades, and it takes a long time to actually change the paradigm. And thank goodness we have some vision and some courage to make plans that are not going to satisfy anybody for years to come, but will eventually bear fruit. So that's good. I also attended the Regional Water Board meeting, and again, it's light at the end of the tunnel, silver lining if you're looking at it. We do have very complex issues, and you just gotta stay the course. You gotta handle the challenges that are presented, and that's how it works. I am still quite interested, and I may actually call Joshua Vincent to see what his ideas are, because yes, it's a good idea for Katie to do it, but you know, as was pointed out, we were the electeds, and we get more ear from our legislators than just anybody trying to get a call through. So maybe that is an appropriate use of our political gravitas, whatever that may be. Last week, I also presented a proclamation, read it, for the Women of Distinction Award, awarded to Mary Behrens, former mayor of this town. And it was good. And, you know, there's a lot going on that we don't really even see, and I think that we've got a lot of reason for hope and optimism. And it starts with recognizing that it is more difficult to make an effort to stand up there, to shake your fist, rail at the injustice, to try and come up with solutions. So that kind of recognition is very important. Anyway, the next meeting of the City Council will be a special council meeting to be held at 4:30 p.m. Tuesday, March 22nd, 2016, in the council chambers. Following the special meeting, the council will hold a regularly scheduled work session in the council's meeting room. So note that we're going to vote for an issue on right before next week's work session. So everybody be here with the exception of Vice Mayor, who we will have to excuse in his absence.
Finally have a job.
Well, that's good, see? All right. Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Miller. Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
All the members voting aye, motion passes.
This meeting is adjourned.